Hello? Hello? Anybody home?
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
I am McLovin.
This is 3 is Company.
We're good streaking! Yeah!
Welcome into 3 is Company. I am Q-Tip. Of course, we have Preston Poole and Kylie Osborne alongside with me. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at Q-Tip47, at Preston Poole 405, and at Kylie Osborne. In case you want to see our pretty faces, we are live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all on the Sports Animal pages. That is just at Sports Animal. If you want to catch our live stream, we'd love for you to look at us. We're pretty we're pretty self-centered. So we enjoy all the compliments.
We love the ego strokes.
We do. Look, you can't boost my ego much more than it should be, but
that's very true.
Much more than others.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. But today we have a special guest. We have Tayler Peterson from the Uncontested, who he covers Thunder basketball for them, and we're going to bring Tayler in. So if you want to see Tayler, you can, of course, go to the Sports Animals YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and catch out Tayler as well. It's at Tayler, Tayler _P15 on Twitter. Tayler Peterson from the Uncontested joins us. Tayler, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Hey, thank you all for having me. It's fun, like you mentioned, to get to see some faces. Last couple of times that Preston and I have talked, it's been over the phone on air.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get to see you guys face to face and to meet Tyler and Kylie as well.
Yeah, you can put the face with the voice and all that stuff now.
Absolutely.
And Preston's the most annoying man of all
Hey,
time.
him and Sam are quite the duo.
Yeah, they both have the worst taste in football teams, baseball teams,
For sure.
and all of it. But
At least they're Sinners fans, though. They had that going for them, right?
yeah, exactly. But all right, Tayler, it's a good thing you joined us today because just in case you were sleeping under a rock, it was the NBA trade deadline today. And I want to ask you, that's my first question. So the Thunder trade for Gordon Hayward, how much does this move the needle in your mind for the Oklahoma City Thunder?
I think for me, again, we kind of came into this deadline, all the rumors, and we call it slop over at the Uncontested because that's essentially what it is, right? And we eat up as much as anybody. It's a lot of fun to follow. But it kind of seemed like it was going to be a bit more of a slow deadline. There was a couple different reasons for that. You had new CBA rules. Some teams were a little more restricted in who they could trade for. You had a lack of available all-stars. It wasn't like last year we had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, for example. And then just the amount of first-round picks that so many different teams have, like our own OKC Thunder, there weren't quite as many picks to go around when trading for some of these guys. And so it ended up being surprisingly a pretty busy deadline, even if there weren't big blockbusters. And I wasn't really sure what to expect from the Thunder. I'm kind of curious your all's thoughts as well. So to see that trade come through before 10 a.m., I was shocked. Usually in the past, when Presti makes a trade, it's right up at the deadline. Mm-hmm. And honestly, there were some details that we didn't get until after the deadline, typical Thunder fashion. But there's 2 trades today. We had the Micic, Treyman, Bertans, 2 second-round picks for Hayward. And then the second trade, which was separate. I thought it might have been tied in together there for a while. Ended up being a separate trade where the Thunder traded their second least favorable of their upcoming 24 first-round picks for a 2028 first-round pick swap with Dallas. So busy day for the Thunder.
I thought we were going to get a 4-way trade in there at one point with Washington being that fourth team with Charlotte and Dallas too.
Well,
I'm sad we didn't get that.
That was the interesting thing, right? Yeah. It's we got the initial Shams tweet and then a Woj tweet that the Thunder were trading Treyman, Bertans for Gordon Hayward. And at first glance, you're thinking, man, that feels like a steal. There's a lot of teams interested in Hayward. Mm-hmm. Then more details start to come out, and we see Micic being the one to be added for salaries. At that point, you could tell the salaries weren't going to match up. I'm thinking, okay, maybe Poku's being included in that. It makes sense. We get more details, and then you have Mark Stein coming out saying that Thunder are going to the Mavericks are trying to get a first-round pick from the Thunder to trade to Washington. So I was in the same boat, Preston. I thought this was going to be a monster 4-team trade.
Now, how surprised are you that Micic was the one included and not a guy like a Poku? Which I guess Micic would make that more valuable of a trade than a Poku, but I figured that would be someone that they would hold on to for at least another season or so.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I think a lot of us were because Micic was kind of finding his footing. He was starting to adjust to the pace of play in the NBA. He was starting to show a lot more flashes of the EuroLeague MVP that we saw overseas before he finally came over. Not only that, Thunder have been trying to get him to come over the past couple of seasons, and some championship contenders, and like the Sixers, were trying to do that as well prior to his draft rights being traded to OKC. He finally decides to come over. He's excited to be a part of what's going on in OKC. So for all those reasons, I was pretty shocked. But I think one thing, and I completely ignored Tyler's question. I kind of went a different direction there. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
Back to your original question, Tyler. Obviously, we can talk about Gordon Hayward's on-court fit. But even if it doesn't work out, there's a lot of flexibility this offseason as well. And I think one reason we saw Micic in that trade rather than Opoku is Micic had to guarantee money on the books for next season. And so getting off of that, including that in the trade for Hayward, if it doesn't work out, or even if it does and they decide to just mutually part ways, the Thunder have a lot of cap space this season. This offseason upcoming, nearly $40 million right now if they move off of Hayward. And that doesn't include them potentially throwing in like a Josh Giddey or whoever it may be for a potential trade. The Thunder are not going to be free agency players. We know that, right? Maybe they are. There's a lot of things they can do with that cap space. They can work on extensions for Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe, who have become very big parts of this team this season. Yep. They also can use all those picks to acquire a very big contract, and maybe a combination of all the above. So this provides flexibility trading for Hayward and including Micic in that trade. I think that's mainly the main reason we saw it. And also to your point, Preston, Micic is a valuable asset, I think. So I'm curious to see if he gets burned in Charlotte.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place for him and Man to go. There's going to be a lot of playing time for both of them on that roster. One last question about like all the trade stuff that went down today as far as the Thunder go. What value does Gordon Hayward have on this Oklahoma City Thunder team? Obviously a veteran playoff experience. I think he's played in like 29 playoff games total, which is 29 more than a lot of the guys on the roster have played. So obviously that's valuable, but what is the exact value that he brings to this team?
Well, when you think about his style of play, obviously a bigger wing, 6'7", 225. Like you mentioned, he's 33 years old. So which is kind of crazy. I'm 29, doesn't seem very old. Yeah. But he's far and away now the oldest player on the Thunder and the most experienced, to your point, his 14th NBA season. But he's an extremely versatile player who can distribute. He can create for others. He can shoot. That's maybe the biggest thing is his three-point shooting that he'll be able to provide. And then he's also not a great defender, but I would say he's a good enough defender that you can put him in some of those lineups alongside Shea, J-Dub, even Josh Giddey, Chet, whoever it may be. So there's a lot to be excited about. For his career, he's 36.9% from three, making 36.1% of his three-point shots on about 5 attempts per game. That's pretty exciting. And one big thing is he's a great catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, which is something this team, they have some when Lou Dort's playing well and hitting his shots, and obviously Isaiah Joe. When you have a big wing like that, and Gordon Hayward, who is 42.7% on catch-and-shoot, three-point attempts for his career, that's significant with this team. He's going to space the floor and also provide another creator for this team as well. And just kind of fits the mold of this Thunder team.
Yeah, and I saw a picture on Twitter earlier after the trade. It was a picture of the Thunder. They were on offense, and Giddey was just in the corner by himself, and someone had screenshotted that from the TV and said, "Now imagine the white guy is Gordon Hayward." So
that shot's probably going to be hopefully going in. That's the hope. I think maybe the biggest disclaimer is obviously Gordon Hayward's been hurt quite a bit off and on throughout his career after his time in Utah. He had the terrible injury obviously with Boston, but since then I think this season he's battled an ankle injury, some calf injuries. Biggest thing for him is going to be availability. Yeah, I think the Thunder feel pretty confident about that. I believe it was Zach Lowe who went on ESPN after the trade, just absolutely loving it for the Thunder. Oh yeah, which is exciting. But also mentioned that he's pretty confident from what he's heard that Hayward's pretty much healthy, should be ready to go almost immediately for the Thunder. So that's great to hear. But again, even if he is hurt the rest of the season, it doesn't work out. It's a pretty low risk, high reward trade. I think that press team made because of that cap space that I mentioned earlier in the pod.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Taylor. So just getting on to the Thunder, the regular season, right? Getting into the grand scheme of things here. Obviously tied for first in the West. ESPN has them out as the number one team in the West, but those top 4 teams separated by half a game, and then you have maybe the best team in all of the NBA and the Phoenix Suns when healthy, 5 games out. I always look at the NBA season. I know that it's not, evenly like in the amount of games. I look at it in 2 halves, as in before the All-Star break, after the All-Star break. And it seems like teams always ramp it up after the All-Star break. So I guess my question to you is, do you see, going forward into like the second half of the year, post All-Star break, the Thunder keeping their spot right there, 1, 2, 3 in the West? Or could you see them falling down into the 5, 6 seed, not into the play-in area, but, being right there at the cusp of it?
It's interesting because the Western Conference is an absolute gauntlet. You mentioned the Suns. They just made a trade for Royce O'Neal, got a really solid rotation piece there for them. Kind of that. I mean, he's a smaller wing in regards to his height, but he plays bigger. Definitely what they were looking for at the trade deadline. I think that gives them more depth. They'll be better. The Clippers didn't make a big move this trade deadline. I almost said this offseason. But they're obviously playing extremely well right now. Actually took over, I think the Thunder are back tied for first in the West after last night's games. But still, they're right up there tied in regards to total wins with the Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. It's Minnesota Timberwolves. Nuggets are right there as well. Wolves got a rotation piece there, and Monte Morris. They were needing that backup point guard. So there were other teams that got better as well. I think the biggest thing for the Thunder team, though, is they play such a sustainable brand of basketball. I've seen they're the youngest in the league. I've seen that they're the second youngest in the league and the third. Nobody seems to have a consensus. I do believe they are the third. I think the confusion is they're the third youngest roster in the league. But in regards to like everybody who actually plays regular rotation minutes, they're the second in that regard. And they've still been able to compete at such a high level. So getting healthy and honestly just trying to recover from a brutal stretch in January. I think, Preston, you and I talked about that the last time I was on Sports Animal. Just a brutal stretch here. They came out playing really well with a good record out of the month of January, but they're definitely going to need this time off. I think they have 3 nights in between their last game and the game on Saturday. That's huge. And then the All-Star break, getting guys healthy like Isaiah Joe. There's a lot of like tweaked ankles and things of that nature, right? So getting healthy, and then now we got to talk about what do new rotations look like with Hayward in the mix, and how does the chemistry kind of start to gel, and what does that look like? There's a lot of questions there. Very long-winded answer and way for me to say that I think Thunder are going to be just fine.
Okay.
I'd even be a little disappointed. I think if they dropped out, I mean, I think 4th in the West could be likely, but if they go any further than that, I'll be a little disappointed just given how well they played through the first, we're almost 2/3 of the way through the season.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're about 2/3 of the way.
I think
look at
50,
the number of games.
50 something games in so far.
Yep.
And piggybacking off of that, with Joel Embiid being out and he's going to not be able to hit that 65 game, mark that they've set for this season to be in consideration for all these awards. How real of an MVP candidate do you think SGA is? Obviously, he's one of the best players in the NBA right now, but how real of a MVP candidate do you think he is?
It's extremely real. I wish I'm going through like all my screenshots of like different stats and stuff. I wish I had this pulled up, but I mean, Shai's just been on an absolute tear. Yeah, he's doing it on both ends of the floor is the biggest thing. I think I saw a stat yesterday where he's leading the league in steals, and like the next person below him, he has like I think it's like, I don't know. It's a ridiculous amount of steals that he's ahead of. He's playing so well on the defensive end of the floor and locking in on that end. And if the Thunder, like I mentioned, they're a young team, they're unproven. If they can continue to hold that like first through that 1 through 3 seed, I think coming to the end of the season, and obviously Embiid being ineligible now with his injury, I mean, I think he's absolutely a candidate, and it'll come down to him and Jokic. And we'll see what the Nuggets do down the stretch, what that looks like. But right now, especially if Shai can sustain this and this Thunder team really, like I mentioned earlier, gels with the Gordon Hayward, like I think he's absolutely an MVP candidate. Wish I had stats for you, but like I mentioned,
No, I did see that stat. And he was like 30 or 40 something steals ahead of the guy in second. In your opinion, we talked about all these teams that have, kind of added some pieces at the trade deadline. I would throw Dallas in there as well as one of those teams that added some pieces. Now we'll see if it's going to work out. But right now, who do you think is the biggest, obstacle in the Thunder's way of making it possibly to a Western Conference Finals?
That is tough. Because like I mentioned, like 1 through 8, even 1 through 10 right now.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily like a easy matchup. Like sometimes at the end of the regular season, you see teams try to like position themselves for certain matchups. Like maybe the Golden State Warriors didn't want the 1 seed. They wanted the 2 seed based off who they'd be playing at the 7th seed rather than the 8th. I'm not sure that there's one team that really stands out as much as it would be like when it comes to the second round and the Western Conference Finals. And I think it's the teams that we've been talking about at the top. The Phoenix Suns, obviously, with that star power, like you all mentioned.
Yep.
The Clippers fall in that same exact boat. Honestly, they may scare me the most just because of the matchup with the Thunder. The Thunder have the bodies to throw out at those guys, but you have Lou Dort on James Harden, and then you're relying on like J-Dub to guard Kawhi, which, I mean, who can guard Kawhi?
Yeah, exactly.
You can throw Shea on whoever else they're playing out there, right there, Paul George, but like that is a tough matchup. And then the other team obviously is the Denver Nuggets. I think that would be maybe even closer of a series than maybe a lot of people in the national NBA media would think. I think I'd probably, if I had to rank them, I'd say the biggest threat for me would be the Clippers. Next would probably be the Nuggets, just because of their cohesiveness, they've proven it. And the third would be the Suns. They're just so unreliable. Like they can get going and Booker can drop 45, whatever the case may be. All three, Booker, Beal, KD, can play incredible. But the depth, the lack of consistency in a 7-game series, I think Thunder could pull that one off.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
All right, Taylor. I got some questions for you just about you now.
Oh, man.
So I go to your Twitter, which, by the way, Taylor _P15.
I tweet a lot. I apologize.
Nope. I'm looking at your bio. I haven't even got into the depth of you, really. But you're a Chiefs fan, so I want to ask you about the Super Bowl on Sunday. But the more important question is, it says Travis Kelce sent you Bitcoin one time. I got to know the story behind this.
I thought that was definitely bio-worthy when it happened. So this was like, gosh, I think it was 2 years ago now. Kind of times blurring together here. But it was just literally a giveaway. Travis Kelce did something with the Cash App app.
Okay.
And was giving away it was I think $100 worth of Bitcoin to certain people who replied and retweeted his tweet. So I obviously replied with something about the Chiefs. And that was enough to get his attention, and I got Bitcoin from Travis Kelce, so I can add that to my resume, I guess. So I wish I had a super cool story, like I was hanging out in Kansas City and came across Trav, but that's not the case.
And you scanned a QR code on a hat.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We're friends on Cash App. No, not the case. However, he did send me Bitcoin though, so that's I got that going for me, I guess.
Hey,
how long did you have that in your bio? Was that after the whole?
Pretty quickly after it happened, I was like, this is So yeah, and it's given me some credit. Obviously, big Thunder account for the most part. Talk a lot about the NBA and the Thunder on my Twitter account, but I always tweet about the Sooners and Kansas City as well. So I felt like that kind of gave me a little more credit when it came to my getting some more Chiefs followers, and so that's been fun.
Yeah, definitely. Now let me ask you about the Chiefs. How are we feeling about Sunday? You think the 49ers don't know how to guard Travis Swift, or what are we thinking?
I don't know. I mean, there's all the rumors, right, that it's rigged for the Chiefs, and Travis is going to propose at the 50-yard line after the game, after he wins I almost said finals MVP, Super Bowl MVP. Honestly, I'm a little nervous because of the inconsistency of this Chiefs team has shown. The fact that we're even here in the Super Bowl seems like a big accomplishment for me as a Chiefs fan, just because of the lack of weapons around Pat, the injuries on defense, although the defense and Spagnuolo's defense has just been phenomenal. I know you guys have talked a lot about that over at the Sports Animal. That worries me a bit, but they certainly seem to have things going, playing incredible football right now. But that Niners defense scares me a little bit. So I think it's going to be close either way. But it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes when you have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time under center. I think he can get it done. So I wouldn't bet on it, but I don't know. I'm very torn. I'm very nervous.
Well, as someone whose team is in the AFC West and has to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year, I can tell you there's going to be probably 2 to 3 minutes left in the game. The Chiefs will be down by a field goal, and Mahomes is just going to lead them down the field and score a touchdown. That's how it always goes in every single game. So
and it's just if as if my nerves, anxiety, and heart rate wasn't already through the roof with some of these Thunder games over the past really decade. Having to watch Patrick Mahomes try and come back with 2 minutes left in the game, every single big game, it feels like it's a little nerve wracking for sure. But I agree. I can see the Chiefs coming out and kind of getting coming out to a hot start again. Niners find it kind of like they did against the Lions, make a big comeback, and I think it will come down to probably one of the final drives, and we're hopefully going to be in for an all-time great Super Bowl.
And what I think is cool about it is that, you know, kind of like in the AFC Championship game, they got up on the Ravens. The Ravens aren't good at playing from behind. The Niners are. So even if the Chiefs do get up, the Niners are still going to be able to play their game and probably find a way back. So it should be a very fun game.
And hey, as a Sooners fan, watching Brock Purdy all those years at Iowa State, like I did not expect him to have this in him. He's been fantastic, not just this season, obviously. You can't count that guy out either.
All right. I do want to ask you about your podcast. You do, have a co-host on a podcast, the Uncontested podcast. And I guess it's a two-part question. First off, what do you do? When do you guys release? Tell me a little bit about it. And then you got to tell me about this apparel because, man, you have some really cool shirts in here.
Yeah. So maybe the best way to describe it is just kind of how it all came together. Just again, growing up a Thunder fan, I was at the very first Thunder game ever. Basketball's always been my favorite sport. Was playing from the time I was like 4 years old. So when the Hornets came temporarily to OKC, we were ecstatic. My dad, my brother, my entire family, and then the Thunder come. And my dad's company actually, it's not my dad's company, but the company my dad works for was a partner there through the early years of the Thunder. So we've gotten to go to a lot of games, some really cool experiences. But through all that, right, I kind of got involved in NBA Twitter and Thunder Twitter, and I met some really cool people. One of those guys was Jacob Niffen, one of my co-hosts, and he reaches out to me and says, hey, the Thunder podcast I was a part of, this is back in like 2018 in February, a little before the playoffs start. The podcast I was a part of fell apart. I'd like to kind of start our own thing and kind of take this in a different direction. Would you be interested? And do you know anybody who would be interested? And one of my best friends from high school, middle school, growing up, Nick Crane, thought he'd be a perfect fit. So we brought Nick along. And then Kamiar is another one. He's big in the OU space, has OU podcast, covers the Sooners. But he also came on with us. And then as we grew and started to meet new people, came across Justin Peabody on Twitter at OKC Tracker. He's also behind the Sooner Tracker account for the Sooner fans.
He's awesome. I love all the
he is great.
So we bring him on like, hey, would you be interested in making graphics for us? Your graphics are incredible. We'd love to have you part of this. Do you want to come on the first podcast and just kind of introduce yourself and that whole thing? Well, he comes on the podcast and he's like, that's probably better than any of us doing podcasts. And we're like, okay, congrats. You're officially a full member of the Uncontested. So the reason I bring that up is that's where all of our awesome graphics and our merch comes from. Justin designs it. We come up with all the crazy ideas and he brings it to fruition. Justin's awesome. And that's where all the cool merch and stuff comes from. So from there, it's just been kind of growing organically. Had some really cool experiences and opportunities through this. And it's kind of grown into something I don't think we ever really would have imagined. And I think we still have a lot of runway and growth to go as well, just like this Thunder team.
Do they give you guys media passes for the games?
So that's the other thing, Nick. So we did get credentialed through the Uncontested we were trying to through Summer League, but that was actually with our podcast network we're a part of, trying to go through the league and not the Thunder themselves. And then we got to go to Media Day this past year. So we got to and also have hosted some watch parties with the Thunder and gotten to kind of do some things like that with them, which has been awesome. But our guy, Nick Crane, that I mentioned earlier, he started writing part-time, just with some, I think some fan-sided Sports Illustrated sites that led to him getting on with Forbes. And so he's actually gotten credentialed through them. And that's how we get a lot of our access. I think the Thunder kind of treat it as a little bit of both. And so, so Nick is credentialed for a lot of these games. He lives in Dallas, so he's not there every single night. And then we've gotten to do some cool things with the Thunder as well. Like I mentioned, Summer League, some watch parties, and then Media Day as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I've sat next to Nick a couple of times in the press rooms, and he's a really good guy. All right, now we got a couple of questions. We're gonna judge you on both of your answers. Kylie's gonna ask the second one. I just want to ask this question because I got off on a small rant about it last time. Does Kevin Durant deserve a statue outside of Paycom Center?
A statue. That is bold, Tyler. No,
I'm
not a
just asking.
statue. Not a
What about
statue.
the jersey retirement? Are we
The jersey retirement is where it gets interesting. It's going to be a while. It'll be a while if it actually happens. It won't
needs
be
to
until he
be-
retires.
I'm
But
planning on
I
dying
can see it.
in like 40 years. Okay, make it 41.
I like
We're
it.
Good.
I like it. Honestly, though, like you think about it, and obviously KD did so much for the franchise, and it is a significant reason that the Thunder are who we are now, and have kind of built this national brand and identity. At the same time, like he didn't win a championship, and the way that he left the team. I mean, like Nick Collison was with his team forever, then he retired with the Thunder. Like that's why his jersey's up in the rafters for all the things he did for the franchise. That's not the case for Kevin Durant. He didn't win a championship here. He did win an MVP. And I guess you could say the same thing about Russell Westbrook in a way, but obviously very different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't happen. I'm just saying, like, if it does, it'll be after his retirement, and I don't know.
So they're not going to open the new arena with Kevin Durant night, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it definitely won't be Kevin Durant night. Certainly won't be a statue out front. Hopefully we get a Russell Westbrook statue, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander statue, Chet Holmgren, J-Dub. That's what we walk into in like 15 years with our kids when the Thunder are on like Thunder 3.0.
Yeah. Perfect.
All I'm saying is Michael Cage will be taking shots at me whenever I'm booing Kevin Durant's mom. Okay. So like
when you're what?
When I'm booing Kevin Durant's mom.
Booing Kevin.
Yeah. Like Jerry Krause got
Wanda,
booed.
man.
Oh, Wanda. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
like,
just shows
that-
Wanda crying, and
Yeah, exactly. And I'm
Tyler's
just
up there
gonna be
booing.
me. Yeah. Loud City. I'm gonna be booing for the stadium.
Love it. Love it. I totally get that. Yeah, that's a pretty tough one.
All right,
Gosh.
Taylor,
Okay.
go ahead.
Kylie warned me about this one before the podcast. I'm still like stumped. So go ahead, Kylie.
All right. Okay. Well, so this is a question we ask all of our guests, that we have on the show. Because we're called 3 is Company. We ask our guests, if you could spend the day with 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be?
So the first one that came to mind is an easy one. And Sam Humphries, I mentioned Sam. That's kind of how I got to know Preston, and a lot of the reason why I'm on with you all. We're both big Russell Westbrook fans. Russell Westbrook was my favorite player. Right? Before the Thunder, it was like early on, it was Vince Carter, because I pulled his like card like back in like elementary school. And I thought it was so cool, and I love the way he played. Yep. Then it was Allen Iverson. And I kind of find that interesting because obviously then Russell Westbrook, even in the early years, like Russell was my favorite over Kevin Durant, who I still loved. And I kind of think about the similarities that both of those guys, now Iverson and Russell Westbrook, possess, both on the court and off the court, the way they play the game and how they present themselves off the court. And I think that's why I probably fell in love with Russell Westbrook as well as a basketball player. And so Russell Westbrook would be my first one. Second one, I'm just going to make this easy for sake of time, and I don't hold you guys up here all night. But I mean, Chiefs fan, right? There's a lot of great Chiefs players from the past, like the Priest Holmes, the Charles, like all those guys. But Patrick Mahomes is the best Chiefs player ever at this point. And to get to sit down with Pat and kind of pick his brain would be fun. And the third one's so tough. I could like give the stereotypical answer, like Jesus, that would be really, really cool. Or it could go I don't know. That's so tough. That third one's hard. Let's just go with those 3.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that sounds like a great day.
That's a good crew. Good crew.
Yeah. You gotta be honest, you're the first Jesus that we've had. So
All right.
Yeah.
I think Joe Masato went with all baseball players.
Okay, that's interesting. See, I'm just not a baseball guy.
Yeah.
So that's
So we've
one
got
reason.
Mahomes and Westbrook and Jesus.
Sure.
Sounds like you guys should go on like a golfing trip or something. Just hang
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw Travis Kelce in there and we just have a ton of fun.
I bet Jesus can hit a driver pretty good. So
we all know he's a good bowler. So,
No kidding.
yeah.
No kidding.
Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for your time today. I know you have your podcast that you're gonna get to. So make sure go follow Taylor on Twitter at Taylor TAYLER _P15 at the _uncontested on Twitter for his podcast, the Uncontested Podcast. Make sure to go drop a follow, drop a listen to him. We really appreciate your time, Taylor.
Hey, thank
thanks,
you all
man.
for having me on. It was a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, it's great to put some faces to names. So appreciate you all having me on.
Yeah. thank you
have
so
a good
much.
one, man.
All right, and that was Tayler Peterson from the Uncontested, and it's good to get a Thunder fan that actually got to experience KD. He gave us the professional answer of no, he doesn't want to see the Kevin Durant statue or jersey. So I took what he was saying there. Okay. So he was on my side.
You think he's gonna paint his body blue and jump in the river with you guys?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think he's on that. Yeah, he's still in the lobby. He's
Oh.
shaking his head yes, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he knows. He's down. It's gonna be like
Got
the
that
Blue Man
confirmed,
group.
all right.
Yeah, it's gonna be the
Yeah.
Blue Man group jumping in the. Hey, open invitation to everybody. Okay, open invitation except for Drake. All right, so Drake, keep that thing far away from us. All right, because we don't want to see
Drake.
you jumping in the. We don't want to see you jumping in the Oklahoma.
Well, and while we're on that topic, before we get to the Super Bowl, this is kind of Super Bowl adjacent, but starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, his wife has come out with some news that she's
what'd you say? News?
news.
I heard that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
news.
My bad. My fault.
No, it is Sports Illustrated. Somehow they're still able to do a sports swimsuit edition.
Yeah, I
so,
thought they shut down.
yeah, I guess not to
Whatever.
put hot women in magazines. Not for that. But yeah, Brittany Mahomes is going to be in Sports Illustrated. And like I told Kylie before we started recording, if you got it, you might as well flaunt it, right? So
I said if you bought it, you might as well flaunt it.
Oh yeah, I mean just from the one stock image, yeah, those are.
I guess they didn't have any other swimsuits they could have put on her. It didn't.
I don't really care for her, but she's talented, is what I'll say. So good for her.
I mean, she's a physical trainer. She's been in good shape her entire life. I think Kylie, you mentioned before we started recording, that she was a soccer player. I mean, good for her. Good for her.
Yeah.
Look, if
And
I look like
what,
that,
what
I
did
would
you
be.
say that she's just making way for? She's opening the lane for Taylor Swift to come join for next season.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's coming next year.
She's too good for that.
Except I had no idea, and you broke this news to me before we started recording. Taylor Swift doesn't show her belly button.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I know for the longest time before all of the Taylor mania, good grief, she didn't show her belly button ever. She's like one of the first girls that started doing like the big like high waist thing like up above her belly button while she's performing, like in swimsuits and everything. Yeah, so I don't know the reason.
Well,
but
she's
that's
like
a
the most
thing.
popular woman in the world, so she's got to stay decent,
Yeah, she won't show her belly button though. I mean, I just think that's. I mean, she's literally modeled for like Victoria's Secret and won't show her belly button.
Yeah, well, she's made enough money to not have to do that. So.
Well, now that we got the main attraction out of the way of the Super Bowl, let's talk about the football teams that are going to be involved. The San Francisco 49ers, the Kansas City Chiefs, going to play in the game on Sunday. I don't know what the current odds are.
I think it's Niners, but again, I don't know.
-1.5, I think.
That sounds right.
I got 1.5. Yep, -1.5, at least on ESPN Bet. Tickets as low as $6,017 just in case.
That's it.
Yeah. So really appreciate that.
You guys want to go?
Before the fees.
Easy.
Bro, I think we talked
I'll get
about
the hotel too.
Yeah, I was about to say, the hotels are ridiculous. The hotel's going to cost you $4,000 too.
Yeah, get a flight there also. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
we can drive. We got enough time to drive out there.
Yeah, we start now.
Yeah, we can make it. We can make it out there and have a day to gamble.
Oh,
so, and you know what? If we put $6,000 on one blackjack hand, then our tickets are free, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
By the way, all these, and I don't know if you follow it much, but all these guys that play games with Dana White at these casinos there in Las Vegas, they basically have been saying it's like guaranteed that they win money. So there's got to be some type of cheating going on there in Vegas for some of these guys, retired NFL players, to be making bukus of money with Dana White.
Well, Dana White has one strategy, and that's bet it all. I mean, so I think, you win.
And that's easy for a guy that has it all, right?
And like
easy to lose it all too.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes up. If you're, a retired NFL player, maybe used to $1,000 a hand, and all of a sudden you're playing $200,000 a hand.
Well, it was Taylor Lewan, so he obviously cashed in on a few big contracts in the NFL, so he's got a lot of money. And then Will Compton, who did not cash in that much. And he did play in the NFL for 9 seasons, so he did get a decent chunk of change, but nothing like Taylor Lewan and what Dana White have.
Yeah, that's very true.
I can't even imagine, betting more than maybe
Yeah.
$10
Yeah.
per day.
And before we get into the game, I know we're getting sidetracked, but every big game should be played in Vegas. Like the Final Four should be in Vegas. Every UFC event should be in Vegas. The Super Bowl. I'm trying to think of what else I had listed, but all those big events.
In Vegas.
Huh?
WrestleMania is in
Yeah,
Vegas.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Stuff like college football playoff, the championship game should be in Vegas. While it sucks for the active players, because if you're an active player, active employee of the NFL, you can't even step foot in a sports book. And if you're on an active roster that's playing in the game, you can't even step inside of a casino. So that aspect of it sucks. But as far as the fans go, I mean, you can go there, you can bet on any prop bet that you want to bet on in those games. You can do all this other stuff. And is there really a better place than Las Vegas to spend 3 days watching your favorite team play a game?
Absolutely not. I told you guys this earlier. I watched the World Cup finals there in Caesars. I mean, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of the world, we'll get into that later, but FIFA blew it for the United States for the World Cup final. But let's talk about the Super Bowl first. We'll get into that.
Okay, sorry. I thought we were about to go off on a rant. Yeah, so the Chiefs 49ers, they're getting into the game, the actual football game. I truly think it comes down to Brock Purdy, right? Because we've seen Brock Purdy literally throw games away. I mean, throw it to the other team so many times.
I mean, he had a 3-game stretch where he basically lost all 3 of those games, right? Because he was just so bad.
Exactly. So is the moment too big? We've seen Brock Purdy come into Norman and win a big time football game when he was in college at Iowa State, and then he chokes it away. I mean, then it just gets too big for him in a moment.
Yeah. And
Iowa State was never got over that hump, right? They had the players. We all thought, is it Matt Campbell, right? Is that the head coach at Iowa State?
Yeah.
We thought he was going to be. We didn't think he was the problem. We thought it was Brock Purdy, and so it just really comes down to, is he going to throw the game away? And I think this Chiefs defense is good enough to rattle him. I think if they can get pressure on him, he's going to start to get some happy feet. Now, don't get me wrong, against the Lions, whenever he was running he would literally, scramble out of the pocket, use his legs to make plays. It was the difference maker in the football game. Now, I think the Chiefs have had 2 weeks to see that happen. They're not going to put a slow linebacker on him because they realize that Brock Purdy is just a little quicker than what people want to give him credit for. I think it comes down to Brock Purdy, and he's going to throw this game away. And the fact that the 49ers are favored, it really surprises me. I mean, Kansas City, this will be their 3rd straight game that they're the underdogs in. And I'm not saying that they should have made the 49ers the underdog here. I really think this is a pick 'em. I think these are 2 really evenly matched teams, 2 good defenses. But the difference is the 49ers defense a little bit better, but the quarterback that they're having to go against is a lot bit better than the quarterback that's lining up for San Francisco. So I like the Chiefs. I mean, you give me the Chiefs and I can have some points to match that. Give me Kansas City. They've been there. We know that Patrick Mahomes is never going to give up. It doesn't even matter. The issue is now we have Patrick Mahomes and going from Tom Brady, who you can never turn off a football game. And then now we have Patrick Mahomes. You can never turn off a football game. What was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? He had, 13 seconds to go down the field and score a touchdown to beat Buffalo.
Well, in that 1 year in Kansas City where Deshaun Watson and the Texans were up I don't know what it was. They were up 21 points at halftime, and the Chiefs came back and won that game.
And won that game. So I like Kansas City a lot. And I'm taking the Chiefs plus 1.5.
I think the Chiefs are going to win for the same reason I said that they were going to beat the Ravens. I mean, they've been in this situation before. They know how it feels. I think Brock Purdy, like you said, he's good. I predict that he's going to choke with it. I think it's going to be too much for him. He's going to misstep, and the Chiefs are going to be unfazed.
Yeah, look, as hot as Brittany Mahomes looked in that Sports Illustrated pictures, I'm not picking the Chiefs. Okay, I can't pick the Chiefs. I won't pick the Chiefs, but I will pick the 49ers. I think that their offense is very good. I think their defense is better than the Chiefs' defense. While the Chiefs' defense is, improved over what it has been the last few years, I like the 49ers defense better. And I think this is a point I can't remember who I heard say this earlier in the week, but at a certain point, all these Chiefs fans get tired of paying to go to all these Super Bowls. And the Niners, they're close there to Las Vegas. They haven't been to a Super Bowl in what, 3 years now at this point. I think there's going to be a lot of 49ers fans out there. I think that's probably kind of why the Niners are favored just by that 1.5. I don't know if it makes that big of a difference, but that's just what I'm telling myself to make myself feel better about picking the 49ers. But
I'm sorry. Are you telling me that if like the Chargers were in the Super Bowl for like what 3 years in a row, that you'd get tired of that?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't like spend all the money it costs to go to Las Vegas to go watch them if they've had already previously won a few Super Bowls, you know.
Yes, you would. If you could, you would.
Well, yeah, me probably in Las Vegas, yeah, because I would like to go to Las Vegas for that. But yeah, I don't know. I just something about the 49ers. I think they're going to be the ones that get it done. I think for some reason it's Brock Purdy that gets things done, and I think they win. I can't really tell you much past that, but I like the 49ers, and I'm fully prepared to be wrong and have to come onto this podcast next week and say things that I don't want to say. But you know what? It is what it is.
Dynasty.
Listen,
We'll see.
It's not in the script. We've established this. I mean, It's been predetermined.
Yeah, I know.
And
The proofreaders of the script every year live in Kansas City, so you know
they must.
Yeah.
Man, if there was a script, you know how pissed they'd be at Brittany Mahomes. It'd be like, can you just stop being a hoe? Like, we got this great American love story.
Say that.
You got this great American love story between Taylor Swift, a girl who doesn't even show her belly button, right? And Travis Kelce, who, you know, is the typical American bad boy who has changed his way for Taylor Swift.
He rides his motorcycle to the practice facility, smoking a cigarette. Yeah.
And now he's going to propose to her on the 50-yard line, and she uses all of this publicity to pose in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Like, can you
finally
just
see
stop?
the belly button reveal?
The scriptwriters are pissed. That's all I'm saying. Maybe because there was an actual
I
script.
think that Taylor herself is writing the script for the NFL now.
Yeah.
I mean, she fired everybody. She took it over. She's putting it in a song. The whole thing's going to be a music video next year. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be in that Poet Society or whatever that song is.
Did you guys watch the Grammys?
No. Yeah, I did actually. And look, Miley Cyrus, she's awesome. And then
Miley Cyrus on Sports Illustrated. That's what happened.
Olivia Rodrigo is awesome as well. She's
I didn't see her talent. Dude, Tracy Chapman performing with Luke Combs was amazing.
That was great.
Awesome too.
That was one of the coolest things I've seen.
Yeah. And then Jay-Z, the biggest loser of the night. Just
everyone's got to stop messing with Taylor. We saw what happened to Kanye after that.
Yeah.
Jay-Z gets to go home with Beyonce. That guy will never be a loser no matter which night it is.
Yeah, but to go on stage, my wife should have. No, dude. Come on. Get out of here.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Did see, I saw Beyonce earlier this year. I mean, she was killer for sure. But I mean, some people need to keep their mouth shut.
I don't even remember who won that award.
Taylor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. She's one of the hottest artists at the moment right now, or has been for years. So,
yeah.
All right, Preston. What other sports news did I miss before?
Well, I had that one where we were talking about FIFA. They just completely blew the site for the World Cup final in 2026. It's going to be in MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, which is just. And I get that there's a massive population up there.
They don't even have real grass.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have to replace the field no matter what. That's just the rules via FIFA. But
now they're gonna have the grass that they grew for 2 months to be the World Cup final.
But instead of doing it at like SoFi in LA, Jerry's World in Arlington, or hell, even like Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, all these nice venues, you stick it up in the Northeast in basically New York City, which is just so stupid. That made me mad when I saw that. Because I was fully intending and prepared for it to be in Arlington, centrally located in the country, easy to get in and out of, and they blew it putting it in New York City.
Yeah, New York people don't deserve the World Cup final. They just don't.
Yeah.
They don't. So it does suck. I mean, it really does suck because you have like all of these great places that you see like of the World Cup final, and then
Yeah.
you're just gonna have one giant parking lot with a stadium right in the middle of it, and they're gonna call that good. So, yeah. All right. Well, so the biggest news coming out of this state anyway was the passing of Toby Keith. And I know we all have our own stories of Toby Keith, and that'll be our top 5 to end the show as well. Is our top 5 Toby Keith songs. But so I'll let you guys go ahead. I'll say mine first on the on just a story. I never met Toby Keith in person. I'm sure one of you might have, but I will say the Toby Keith, his song "American Soldier." My dad came back from Iraq. I think it was the Army who put a little like slideshow thing together for him, and they used that song. So every time I hear that song, I think about all the pictures of my dad in Iraq, being a hero, getting to do all of those great things. So, Toby Keith, true American, true patriot. He's going to be missed. I'm really sad I never got to see him perform live in person. I have a buddy that I work with at my day job who went to Vegas to watch his last show.
Oh yeah.
And I looked at him that morning. I was like, damn, you're lucky. And so that's my story of Toby Keith, and we'll get into his top 5 songs here in just a second.
Yeah. I mean, look, as growing up in Moore, Oklahoma, I mean, his name is on the water tower here in the city. The high school sits at Toby Keith Avenue and Main Street here in Moore, Oklahoma. So that sucked. And seeing everyone in Moore on Facebook posting about him, all that stuff, obviously he meant a lot to the Moore and Norman community, because I know he lived down there in Norman. So sad. I mean, he made a bunch of great songs that I remember from my childhood and growing up listening to him. Unfortunately, I never got to meet him or go to a concert with him as well. So it sucks. And I always used to tell the joke, being from Moore, I went to the Moore original high school there, and I would just always tell people, I went to high school at Toby Keith because he went to the same high school. So I'll still be running that joke, but
your alumni brothers forever.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. No, I actually didn't get to meet him in person either, but my family did. He meant a lot to some of my family, my cousins. When I was in high school, I actually worked I volunteered with what is called the Toby Keith Foundation, and it's a pediatric cancer charity. He helps house a lot of the families of pediatric cancer patients in Oklahoma and surrounding states. And my cousin, unfortunately, was one of those pediatric cancer patients, and he helped out my family so much. So, I mean, nothing but great things I can say about him, nothing but gratitude. And I was really sad to hear about what happened. So
yeah, if you ever needed someone to write a song about America kicking someone's ass, it was Toby Keith that needed to be writing and singing that song.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, definitely. So that's all right. Let's get into our top 5. Top 5 Toby Keith songs, at least for us. So we want to hear from you at Preston Pool 405, at Kylie Osborne, at Q-Tip 47. What your top 5 Toby Keith songs are. I'm not going to put a number to these. I'm just going to name one of them.
Yeah.
The one that I'm going to start with is something that I actually is in my is at the top of my album because I forgot how good of a song it was. It's an underrated one. It's called A Few More Cowboys. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that one. It was only on the radio for about 2.5 days. I got to hear it a couple of times, and I was like, this is a damn good song. And I went home and I YouTubed it, and I was like, all right, I can get down with this one. So it's just called A Few More Cowboys. Talks about, if the government will just let us smoke what we want. And, it's just good for you, Toby. Good for you. And so I'm gonna get us started with that one.
I mean that's perfect. Mine, the first one that come to mind for me is a song that I don't know if this is like a very popular one or not. This is like towards the end of me like really listening to country music. Since then I'm back in now, but God Lover, that song. It's kind of like a newer song. I think it was like in the late 2000s is when he released that one. But it's an awesome song.
Dude, I don't know, just weird timing, right? But that song, I heard that song every day, like whenever I would drive back and forth to work, like at least once, if not both times on the way back and forth.
Yeah.
And right a couple of days before it got announced that he passed. So, I've sing along to that song, like this past week.
So you guys know that I'm not the biggest country music girl in the world. So I'm not gonna. These are gonna be basic, okay? But they're great songs, and I have great memories attached to all of them. And I'm not gonna list it 1 through 5.
Hey, that's
five.
all that matters. Yeah.
Let's start with "Beer for My Horses." That's probably one of the first ones. Like I end up like that I think about when I think of Toby Keith. It's just kind of like back in middle school. I mean, sitting in the car with my brothers and my friends or whatever, and again, I didn't really listen to country music, but that is one that I definitely remember, and I like that.
That's definitely a good one.
My number 2, or just the second one I'm going to bring up here, is "Made in America." I really like that one. I like songs that like to like put obscure things in it, and the fact that he mentioned WD-40 is just like fantastic. That takes true talent to make WD-40 make sense. Like that's not an easy thing. Yeah, that's not an easy thing to really say at times, let alone sing. And the guy just does it effortlessly and puts it into a song. It makes it just make sense. So give me "Made in." I'm gonna say "Made in America."
Yeah, for sure. My next one is gonna be "I Love This Bar." Look, songs sometimes have all these, intricate things. No, give me a simple song. Toby Keith loved this bar, and he made a song about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he even parlayed that into a restaurant.
Multiple.
Yeah,
actually,
Look, that's a classic from Toby. I love this bar.
I'll kind of jump off of you for that because I also had that on my list. And the reason I actually really like that song is because I used to go up to Hard Rock Casino. They have one of the Toby Keith. I love this bar and grill there too, and also in Oklahoma City. But I wasn't allowed in the casino right at the time because so I would go hang out at the bar, like in the like restaurant part of the bar. So I mean, but yeah, they played that all the time.
Yeah, that one's great. I mean, that one makes you want to go to a bar and just to be a usual at the bar, right? For the bartender to know your name. It's like, that's cool. That was cool. Toby Keith.
And the drink when you walk in, ready to go, and you sit down.
Yeah,
face on a sit down, and they're like, they say your name and your drink's right there.
Yeah, they ask you
and
like,
you say, "I love this bar."
Yeah, like, hey, how's your kid? Name your kid by first name.
Yeah.
All right, the next one for me is gonna be "Crying for Me." The song that he wrote it for Wayman Tisdale. After he passed away, I saw there was, I think it was Eli Letterman that posted on Twitter his performance for Wayman after he passed. And man, I mean, that song, you want to talk about like just getting a good cry in. That's like, if you play that song when you're in a sad mood, you're just gonna cry, and it's okay to cry every now and then. And so I got to be honest, I love that song. I absolutely love that song. One of the most emotional songs ever written.
Yeah, that is for sure
to cry to. Tearjerker.
My next one is gonna be "Beer for My Horses." I know Kylie mentioned that already, but if a song is so good, you make a movie about it. Count me in, right? And I don't know if either of you have seen that movie. It's called "Beer for My Horses." Toby is in it, and there's a few other country music stars as well. But I recommend trying to find that and watching that movie.
Okay.
All right. We'll have to check it out. I mean, it seems like the time now, right?
Yeah. But, now look, I don't know what the rotten potatoes or a tomato score, whatever it is. I don't know what that score is, okay? But I know it's a good song. So
yeah, it's a good song. It's got to be a good movie. It's fine. My next one, I'm gonna get. What are we on? Like this, like 3-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Three. Yeah.
Let's. I love the song "Should Have Been a Cowboy," and I hate it at the same time because just remember all of my friends, you go into schools. I went to OU. A lot of my friends went to OSU, and they just sang "Should Have Been a Cowboy" to me like over and over again. And I still love that song.
Well, and OSU used to play it at basketball and football games for a long time. They've since switched over to a Garth Brooks song. I forget which one it is, but yeah, I remember them. I went up to a Bedlam football game one year, and they were playing that. I think during the OU intros.
They played it during the last one, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, whenever they were playing all their songs. And then, of course, the great video of Toby being up there after a Bedlam basketball game.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
And Joe. So, yeah, that was pretty great. All right, the next one for me is going to be American Soldier. I mentioned this one earlier. That one just has meaning to me. And American Soldier is... I think Preston, I think you're going to mention the most patriotic song that he sings, but that one I think is up there with the most patriotic song of all time.
Actually, I'm not. I'm going to go with the one Kylie just said. It should have been a cowboy. I've got another one that I think is pretty good lined up next, but yeah, Should Have Been a Cowboy was one of his. I think it was his most famous song. It's the song that I think made him famous. Obviously, that was before I was born, so I don't know all the history of that. But yeah, I mean that's a great song, right? I mean, you could play that anywhere with anybody that's lived in the South, no matter race or anything like that, and they all know who sang that song and the words to the song, just because it was that popular.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. What are we? Okay, this is 2-ish. Okay, Red Solo Cup. I mean,
honestly, I cannot stand that song. I can't.
I just love that he sounds absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, who just Red Solo Cup?
Yeah. Whatever.
It is what it is.
Whenever he gets into that Red Solo Cup, you're not just.
Oh yeah. You're my friend.
Yeah, I mean, just like he sounds absolutely. It sounds like he sounds hammered, and it sounds like the perfect bar song because you're like, that's exactly how I sound. You don't sound like that, by the way, but that you think,
yeah. His voice definitely sounds a lot better than anyone else that's ever sang that at a bar. So.
Oh yeah, especially having a Red Solo Cup in your hand. You do not sound like that. All right,
I just looked it up though. That song came out in 2011. So just imagine 12-year-old me just standing with my freaking water Red Solo Cup, not knowing what he's really talking about, and just screaming at the top of my lungs.
That was very popular at the parties out in the sticks. Around then.
Yeah.
Get the bonfire going.
Dude, I know. I put it to shame. I got the green one. We're still recovering.
How dare you?
Still recovering from Christmas. I only had one Red Solo Cup left in my cabinet, and I poured a beer in it the night Toby died. And so I was like, got a tribute to him. But all right, my number one is actually the first song that I ever learned how to sing. So I remember my mom had that Toby Keith Greatest Hits 2, my mom and dad, and then we had this radio that you like connected underneath your cabinet, and you could play live radio. You could slide a CD in that thing, and it's "How Do You Like Me Now." I think that says a lot about me, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the first song I ever learned, it's like this most cocky song that he has, and it's fantastic. And so I sing it to my fiance now, especially the part about being on the radio. I like look at her and I really get into that part. She just rolls her eyes, of course. But "How Do You Like Me Now" it's the first song I ever learned how to sing. I would walk around my kitchen and I would sing that to my mom, and so like it's a great memory. And
it explains a lot.
Well, I got one that's along the same lines there. This one, "I Want to Talk About Me." That song is awesome, and it kind of defines me. I love to talk about me. I love to talk about and all that stuff. So,
I love that one too.
Yeah, it really is. It's so catchy. It's a great song.
Those two stroke their egos. With my last one, we're gonna go with "Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue" because I'm not as selfish as you guys are. I
think he actually, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he actually wrote that one like 2 days after 9/11, and got that out there. So it took him like 2 days to get that out there and
One of the
ready
best
to kick
songs
some ass.
ever.
Just a pissed off Toby Keith writing a song. I mean, and he's like, "Get in the studio. We're recording this right now." I probably did it in one take. Yeah. No, it's a song you have to play every 4th of July. And there's no doubt about it. It'll be played here until America goes away, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember just
What
like
a way to put it.
Wait, what?
He
Well,
said
you
it'll be played until America goes away. I mean,
Well, it
I thought you
will.
were just gonna say till the
I
end
guess,
of time, but what?
You never know.
the rest of time, that would be the better.
Time might still be going on. Okay, you just never know. All right. You ever heard of the Roman Empire? Everybody thought that was going to be lasting. Okay.
I guess it lasted longer than we have so far.
And that was history with Q-Tip.
Exactly. All right. I got some honorable mentions. I have the Taliban song. If you've never heard that song, I think it's fantastic. It's right there on the border of appropriate songs. Definitely not something you should play at a work party.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. And then Who's Your Daddy? Another great song by Toby Keith. So that's another one that I sing to my fiance, and she instantly tells me to turn it off. I will say, those are my 2 honorable mentions that I had written down. You guys named all the other ones that I had wrote down. So
I say all the ones that I had we got named. Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on. I
Good
gotta pull my
job.
list back up. Oh, Good As I Once Was. That one's good too. Honorable mention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
That is a very good one. So hats off to Toby Keith on excellent life, excellent career. You will be missed. Sad I never got to meet him. I was honestly looking forward to using the power of this podcast to try to meet him. We were getting.
My cousin said he is like one of the nicest guys they've ever met in their life. So
I can imagine.
take it from them.
And I would imagine so. But that'll do it for us at QTip47, at Preston Pool 405, at Kylie Osborne. Make sure to go and watch us on the Sports Animals YouTube, the Sports Animals X or Twitter, or the Sports Animals